Welcome back to Inspiration Pilgrims. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Joseph, a figure whose journey from hardship to triumph teaches us powerful lessons about faith and resilience. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to hear from you. What part of Joseph's early story resonates with you the most? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Let's explore how Joseph's story unfolds, starting from his roots in Canaan. Joseph's story begins in the land of Canaan. He was the 11th son of Jacob and the first son of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife. As the Bible says in Genesis 30:22-24, then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and enabled her to conceive. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son and said, God has taken away my disgrace. She named him Joseph and said, may the Lord add to me another son. His life, recorded in Genesis 37, is filled with family tension, prophetic dreams, and divine purpose. Let's explore his early life and the events that led to his betrayal by his own brothers. His father Jacob, also known as Israel, had 12 sons in total, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph's brothers were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Genesis 35:22-26. Joseph, being the firstborn of Rachel, was especially loved by Jacob. Jacob made a special coat of many colors for Joseph, a symbol of his favoritism. Genesis 37:3. The father's injudicious gift to Joseph of a costly coat or tunic such as was usually worn by persons of distinction, seemed to them another evidence of his partiality, and excited a suspicion that he intended to pass by his elder children to bestow the birthright upon the son of Rachel. This visible sign of Jacob's love for Joseph caused envy and hatred among his brothers. Genesis 37:4. Joseph's dreams further strained his relationship with his brothers. In one dream, Joseph saw his brothers' sheaves of grain bowing to his, and in another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed to him. Genesis 37:5-11. These dreams, which foretold his future authority, angered his brothers even more, and even his father Jacob rebuked him. Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? Exclaimed his brothers in envious anger. Soon he had another dream, of similar import, which he also related. Behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. This dream was interpreted as readily as the first. Jacob questioned Joseph's dream, wondering if he and his family would really bow to Joseph. However, despite his reproachful tone, Jacob recognized that God was likely revealing future events through Joseph's dreams. The brothers were obliged to move from place to place to secure pasturage for their flocks, and frequently they were absent from home for months together. After the circumstances just related, they went to the place which their father had bought at Shechem. Jacob, fearing for his son's safety, sent Joseph to check on them, unaware that they secretly harbored resentment toward him. After a long journey to Shechem, Joseph found his brothers and their flocks missing and was told to go to Dothan. He had already traveled more than 50 miles, and now an additional distance of 15 lay before him. But he hastened on, forgetting his weariness in the thought of relieving the anxiety of his father and meeting the brothers, whom, despite their unkindness, he still loved. Joseph approached his brothers, who, blinded by hatred, ignored his needs. Their anger grew at the sight of his coat, a symbol of favoritism. Jacob, unaware of their jealousy, would not have trusted Joseph with them had he known their true feelings. Behold, this dreamer cometh, they cried in mockery. Envy and revenge, long secretly cherished, now controlled them. Joseph's brothers, filled with jealousy, plotted to get rid of him. When Joseph came to check on them as they tended their flocks, they conspired to kill him. Reuben, the eldest brother, convinced his siblings not to kill Joseph. Instead, they threw him into a wilderness pit. Reuben planned to rescue him later and return him to their father. Reuben then left the group, concerned that his emotions might reveal his true intentions to save Joseph. But some of them were ill at ease. They did not feel the satisfaction they had anticipated from their revenge. Soon, a company of travelers was seen approaching. It was a caravan of Ishmaelites from beyond Jordan, on their way to Egypt with spices and other merchandise. Judah suggested selling him to a passing group of traders. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver, and he was taken to Egypt, Genesis 37:25-28. Reuben returned to the pit, but Joseph was not there. In alarm and self-reproach, he rent his garments and sought his brothers, exclaiming, "The child is not, and I, whither shall I go?" Upon learning the fate of Joseph, and that it would now be impossible to recover him, Reuben was induced to unite with the rest in the attempt to conceal their guilt. To deceive their father, they dipped Joseph's coat in goat's blood and presented it to Jacob, making him believe Joseph had been killed by a wild animal, Genesis 37:31-33. Imagine the heartbreak of a father losing a beloved son. Jacob's grief was overwhelming. As he held the bloodied coat, he recognized it instantly and cried out, "It is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces." The anguish in his voice was undeniable. His sons and daughters tried in vain to comfort him, but Jacob could not be consoled. In his sorrow, he tore his clothes, wrapped himself in sackcloth, and mourned deeply for many days. Time did nothing to ease his pain. With a despairing heart, he would say, "I will go down into the grave mourning my son." His grief was immeasurable, as any parent who has lost a child can imagine. Meanwhile, his sons were haunted by their terrible secret. Though they feared their father's reproach, they hid their guilt, which weighed heavily on their hearts. They knew the gravity of what they had done, and even they could hardly bear the burden of their actions. Thus began Joseph's journey from favored son to a slave in a foreign land. But even in this dark moment, God's plan for Joseph was unfolding. The story of Joseph's resilience, faith, and ultimate triumph would soon unfold. But this was just the beginning of his remarkable life. What do you think of Joseph's brothers' actions? Could you forgive them if you were in Joseph's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. I'm eager to read your thoughts. Stay tuned for the continuation of Joseph's incredible journey. Subscribe for more Bible stories and reflections. Thank you for watching. If you found this story meaningful, share it with a friend who needs encouragement, and let's keep spreading inspiration together.